Allah, oh Allah, Jale Shan Allah, Allah.
The modern age has presented many problems for the Muslim world. In the old order of things, it was God, king, and the country that was a valid matrix for political rule. In the newer order of things, it was a state and subjects, states and citizens, in which God has been absent, has been fundamental in the secular world. Within the older order of things, it was possible to approach the older minorities and vast majorities and make them subject to divine laws, especially in the Muslim world, that protected its minorities as the people of the book and as dhimmis. In the new order of things, all of the entities that are religious entities have been removed from the public sphere and made subject to the secular laws, which has led to an intellectual and political uprising in the Muslim world since the last 150 years. Muslims today still believe in the traditional ideals of politics. The institution of Khilafah, the notion of Ummah, and the system of Millah is still very close to their heart. But how it can be realized again is a very difficult question, and there is no consensus seems to be forthcoming on this topic. But one thing is for certain, that the colonial disintegration of the Muslim world has posed many problems. And the model that has been brought to the Muslims is the either democratic capitalism or the democratic socialism of the West. According to the Muslim tradition itself and the Muslim political thinking, the modern world is the world of extremes. On one hand, you have the liberal secular world of the Western European states, and then secondly, you had across the Iron Curtain the communist states of the Western world. Now, Islam is silent and accommodative of both. Islam believes in transmission of private property, in making an earning for the sake of profit, and also believes in charity. But the opposition that has come about in the political extreme of the modern world, that on one hand in the liberal secular world, in the capitalist world, the wealth and materialism have become a good unto themselves. On the other side of the Iron Curtain, which is the communist world, for a good period of 80 years, we see that there is the notion of charity, but it is charity without Christ. So neither is acceptable to Islam. Yet, socialism and private property systems are both accommodated by Islam. Wealth in the Islamic political system is like a ladder on which you can ascend to heavens, and it is also the same ladder on which you can descend to hell. Now, when it comes to discussing democratic socialism or democratic capitalism of the Western ideals, one has to keep in mind the nexus between money and politics in the modern world. The modern world itself, the modern political systems themselves suffer from this sway of materialist capitalism and hijacking of democracy. And today, a situation has arisen in which all of those people whose ideals were democracy in the West seems to be shifting. Democracy is no longer as popular within the West as it once used to be. The modern elite is ambivalent about democratic system, but given the new changes that have come about that are of demographic nature, in which the white majorities of most of the Western countries could become minorities in the next generation. If this is so, do we still want democracy in those countries? And the Western elite is still very much ambivalent on that. But about capitalism, they're very much sure, because it exaggerates the difference between haves and the have-nots, and hence could legitimize minority rule. For Muslims, it is very important to understand that democracy as such in its Western notions is not a cause of development and richness and power that the Muslims seek. It is an effect of all of that. And capitalism as such, in its most crude form, cannot be accepted in this consumerist materialist form. So how is it that the Muslims can come to power and then transform these very notions remains to be seen. What is important to understand in the modern world is how wealth and materialism has hijacked democracy. The question of money and politics, which is not only plaguing the political systems in the Western countries, but also of all the other countries in the modern world. To overcome the fragmentation that has beset the Muslim world, to resuscitate the ideals of Ummah and Millah today, the Muslims have to look at how the Western politics themselves have transformed from being hyper-national politics of the world wars to the European Union. Even the most secular of all the societies that ripped each other apart not that long ago are in a symbiotic relationship with one unit monetary system and moving swiftly towards an integration of foreign policy and defense. The Muslim world, which is locked into so many political units, small and weak political units with heavy defense budgets, must do the same. There is so much in the Islamic tradition that emphasized unity, tawheed, in all its levels, including the political level. It must be realized. And for the Muslim states, no matter wherever they are today, must integrate their foreign policies and their systems of defense in such a way that the institution of millat once again comes into being to safeguard the material and the symbolic interests of the Ummah.